Good day, everyone. I'm Shuofeng. Today, I'll be talking about our work. Being transparent is merely the beginning, enforcing the purpose limitation with polynomial approximation. Just like the title suggests, the main focus of our work is to develop a method that enforces the purpose limitation principle, which is one of the key principles in privacy regulations today. So before we get into the technical details, let me first provide some background to help set the stage and make the concept easier to understand. All right, so first of all, privacy regulations. There are various privacy regulations around the world nowadays. For example, the GDPR in EU and Privacy Act in Australia, and also the CCPA in the United States. The primary goal of these regulations is to protect the personal data, and there are two key aspects. The first one is the data transparency. This means that individuals should be fully informed about how their data is being used, collected, who has access to it, and why it's being collected. The second aspect, which is the main focus of our work, is the purpose limitation principle. This principle ensures that the personal data is only used for the specific purpose for which it was collected. All right, so to help clarify this concept, let me show you a figure that illustrates it more clearly. Okay, in this figure, you will see two participants, the data owner and service provider. Before the service provider can collect any data from the data owner, they must first inform the data owner about the specific algorithm. For example, in this example, is the FAX that will be used. And the data owner then can give the consent for this process to move forward. This stage actually represents the concept of data transparency. And once the consent is given, the service provider is only permitted to process the data using the algorithm FA to obtain the correct result. This is where the purpose limitation principle comes into play. It means that the service provider is restricted to using only the authorized algorithm FA and is not allowed to use any other unauthorized algorithms to the data. So next, I will walk you through some practical scenarios and the challenges that arises when executing the purpose limitation principle in real-world scenarios. So here, there are two scenarios, basically. In the first one, we have two participants, the user and the service provider. The service provider is made up of two parts in this example, the auditable web interface and the computing backend. The process begins when the web interface requests some information from the user. After gathering the information, the interface pops up like a window to inform the user about how their data will be used. For example, to perform a classification task. Once the user gives their authorization, the data is then sent to the backend for processing. In the second scenario, there are three participants, the user, the data processor, and a third party. For example, consider a bank that wants to calculate a client credit score. The bank collects the client's private information and informs the client that the data will only be used to calculate the credit score. And after getting the authorization, the bank transfers the data to a third-party company that specialized in credit score calculations. However, when the data goes to the backend or third party in both the scenarios, things are going to change. Although they can certainly perform the authorized algorithm to get the correct result, they also have the capability to run unauthorized algorithms on the data, because the data is always the data. Any computation can be performed on it. So, we can realize that the transparency alone is insufficient to protect users' privacy. And when the data reaches the backend or third parties, it places the data owner in an unfair position, where they lose control over their data. Therefore, enforcing the purpose limitation principle is of urgent significance. Actually, there are existing solutions trying to guarantee the purpose limitation principle to be held. The first one is fully homomorphic encryption. Here is the basic workflow. The original data is first encrypted into the ciphertext using an encryption key. When an authorized algorithm is applied to the ciphertext, it produces an encrypted result. This result can then be decrypted using a decryption key to reveal the plaintext result. However, if an unauthorized algorithm is applied, the adversary will still get an encrypted data result. But without the decryption key, they won't be able to recover any meaningful information. So the decrypt key here is the key to determine whether the unauthorized algorithms have been performed or not. So we can see the drawbacks of the FHE, though, is obvious as well. The asymmetric encryption systems increases the computational complexity, and the data can still undergo unauthorized computations while encrypted. Okay, so the second solution is the differential privacy. The noise, usually the Laplace or Gaussian noise, is added to the original data to create we call the perturbed data. To achieve the privacy protection, a substantial amount of noise should be added, leading to a reduction in the accuracy of the calculation results. And DP not only prevents the unauthorized algorithms from producing the correct result, but may also affect the authorized algorithms because of the noise. Therefore, accuracy and computational cost are the main concerns of the two existing possible solutions. So we give our solution here, the AlgoSpec. AlgoSpec stands for the algorithm specificity. The core idea behind AlgoSpec is illustrated in this figure. When the data processor is authorized by the data owner, they first use a polynomial approximation technology to transfer the original algorithm into a polynomial form. By leveraging the properties of the polynomials, the data processor can then obfuscate the original data and the polynomial together, creating an obscure list. And at the same time, a calculation rule is generated automatically. This calculation rule acts as a substitute for the original algorithm, and the obscure list contains the information from both the original data and the algorithm. The obscure list and the calculation rule then will be sent to the third party. And when the third party applies the calculation rule to the obscure list, the correct result representing the original algorithm will be obtained. However, if the third party applies unauthorized algorithms, the result will be meaningless. Therefore, we can see AlgoSpec successfully infers the purpose limitation principle by using the polynomial approximation and the inherent properties of the polynomial, making the calculation consumption is not expensive as well. Okay, so we set two goals for AlgoSpec. The goal one is the algorithm specificity, which enforces the purpose limitation principle. After using the AlgoSpec, we can see only executing the authorized algorithm can obtain the correct result. And the goal two is one-way obfuscation, which ensures the data security. The adversary cannot reverse engineer the original data, whether they have the access to the intermediate result M and A or the final result R. So the two goals guarantee that the purpose limitation principle is upheld and the original data is being protected well. And next, we will dive into the detailed approach of AlgoSpec and explain why it can achieve the two goals we are setting. And here, let's break down the approach into three main steps. The first one is polynomial approximation, and next is obscure list construction, and finally is the calculation rule generation. So let's begin with the polynomial approximation. When transforming a complicated algorithm to a polynomial form, we must determine the highest order of the polynomial first, which is also called degree. We utilize the discrete logarithm problem and the Diffie-Hellman problem to construct an indistinguishable n. This ensures that the degree of the polynomial is square and cannot be easily reverse engineered by an adversary. Once the n is determined, we apply a machine learning strategy known as polynomial fitting to approximate a polynomial with the degree n. According to the uniqueness of the polynomial theorem, the result of this approximation is unique to that specific polynomial. This polynomial approximation ensures goal one, the algorithm specificity. And next, we can move on to the second step, obscure list construction. To build the obscure list, we first need to create specific parameters that help ensure the items in the obscure list effectively represent the original data and algorithm. In our paper, we go in very detail about these parameters and explain why they are important. Due to the time constraint, I won't be covering all of those details here. If you are interested, please refer to our paper for a deeper dive. So to construct the square list, we handle non-constant terms and constant terms separately. And finally, we will get a list containing two capital N M's in an obfuscation form. Importantly, we set n, the capital N, to be much greater than 2n to keep the highest order n hidden. Since the small n is the only possible way to reverse engineer the original data, so AlgoSpec achieves goal 2 when we obfuscation. Finally, we get the calculation rule automatically generated. So if we take a closer look at the M's in the square list, we will notice that when we multiply two adjacent M's generated from the non-constant terms, the result corresponds to a specific term in the polynomial. By summing this product together, we obtain a summation of the polynomial's non-constant terms. And for the constant terms, AlgoSpec ensures that the calculation involving the remaining M's yields a value being equal to the beta, which is the constant term. And in the end, the output of this calculation rule equals the result of the polynomial, which in turn represents the result of the original algorithm. This ensures the accuracy of the computation. Okay, so we conduct a very comprehensive security analysis of AlgoSpec and formally proved its security. We have a very detailed proofs in our paper, so I encourage you, if you are really interested in this part, you can refer to our paper, and we provide a thorough explanation in our paper. Okay, so we also conduct a comprehensive experimental evaluation. I list some of the key evaluations results here. So first of all, we benchmark the performance of AlgoSpec against the two famous methods, FHE and DP. We've applied the AlgoSpec to entropy method using a popular dataset, the World Happiness Ranking Index score. And in the result, we can find the black dot representing the baseline performance, which is obtained direct calculation without any obfuscation or privacy measures. The red square represents the performance of AlgoSpec. The evaluation shows that AlgoSpec's results most closely align with the baseline, outperforming FHE and DP. And for the right-hand side figure, we can see AlgoSpec achieves the lowest MSE. This figure shows that AlgoSpec can achieve extremely high accuracy while still maintaining the data security and enforcing the purpose limitation principle. Okay, so we also evaluate the scalability of AlgoSpec by using the dataset from the range of scale 10 to the power of 3 to 10 to the power of 6. The evaluation results show that the results obtained by the AlgoSpec are the closest to those calculated by the baseline across all scale of dataset. And AlgoSpec achieves the lowest MSE as well across all the scales. FHE encounters the computation failure as the size of the dataset increases, but AlgoSpec maintains its high accuracy even at the largest scales. The loss in the accuracy, we can see the AlgoSpec is significantly smaller than DP and FHE. We evaluate the efficiency of AlgoSpec as well. AlgoSpec outperforms FHE across all scales of dataset in terms of total computation time. And AlgoSpec can balance the efficiency and maintain a super high accuracy, and most importantly, it enforces the purpose limitation principle. Also, we have another case study to apply the AlgoSpec to the classification task, the naive classification. So for more details, please refer to our paper. Okay, so here in conclusion, we make a preliminary attempt on the algorithm level to achieve purpose limitation principle. And AlgoSpec achieves goal 1, algorithm specificity, by leveraging the polynomial approximation and its nature. And AlgoSpec also achieves goal 2 when we obfuscation by constructing a hidden highest order of the polynomial using the discrete logarithm problem and Diffie-Hellman problem. Compared to the data transparency, we believe executing purpose limitation principle faces more challenges. So we hope that more studies could look into this domain. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to take the questions.